body knows, District 2 is one of many districts that has had challenges with noise related to vehicles, specifically loud revving engines and motorcycles. And I've done quite a bit of research on the topic over the last, ever since I've been in office. And unfortunately, I don't see that this change to this ordinance is going to make any difference for the problems that my district experiences. Namely because the sound cameras that I've researched are not going to be legal within the state of Tennessee because they would be single site cameras similar to a traffic camera. And then also, the police continue to let me know that decibel meters of any type have not been found to be admissible in court. So for me, this, the change of, for example, in item 3, the red line that I have of taking the singing on the streets or sidewalks from the hours of 8:30 to 7 a.m., 8:30 p.m. to 7 a.m. and changing that to any time of day. Like, I just don't see that it is going to do anything for the problems that my district has. And I have yet to, in my research, find a good solution for those problems. So I want the people of District 2 to understand, and I've had these conversations in person with them, that when they see that we're talking about a noise ordinance, this is not going to be the thing that fixes their problem. That further work has to be done, more research, and honestly, some of these sounds are so ephemeral that they're just very, very difficult to deal with. So I appreciate that you've brought this to us, Councilwoman Burrs. Unfortunately, it's not quite what my district needs.
May I respond?
Yes.
So I hear you. And actually, my vote will be for the whole city, not just for my district, because my district needs special things too. So when I look at it, I'm looking at the whole district. Now I do know, and I've been talking we've been working in the executive office to try to figure out how to deal with your issues. And I know you're aware of that. And I'd like to add that to this once this goes through. So I'm aware of the other work that's been going on. I'm aware of your concern. I'm aware of the cameras. And I too have some issues with particularly the motorcycles. Because we're near a freeway and Brainerd Road, and we've had those complaints as well. So I'm aware of it, but I'm bringing it forward and voting for it in spite of that, with the knowledge that I know the mayor's office is working on some other ways we might be able to meet that need. So thank you very much for your comments.
All right, good. Councilwoman Burrs, Councilwoman Hill. All right. Item 6B, well, we have planning items on first reading. Any comments or questions about that?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, Councilwoman Burrs, and Madam Clerk, could you read 6B?
Yes, ma'am. So
I'm sorry, Councilwoman Burrs, if Madam Clerk could read 6B for us.
Do you want her to read it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, so as to rezone properties located at 7368, 7376, 7384, and 7390 Old Cleveland Pike from R1 residential zone to RTZ residential townhouse 0 lot line zone, subject to certain conditions.
Thank you so much for that. Go ahead, Councilwoman Burrs.
Thank you, ma'am. So we deferred it for 2 weeks because the community wanted to have a public meeting and wanted to discuss it at the public meeting. Last Thursday, the public meeting did occur.
Mm-hmm.
However, that particular issue never came up on the agenda. There were other things that took precedence. So I have no record of any opposition at the meeting the way it should have happened. So this will go forward.
Thank you so much. All right. Under resolutions, We have resolutions under economic development. Any questions? All right, moving down to mayor's office, resolution item D. Joe, if you come up and give us an update.
Yes, thank you, council. So I wanted to address some of the concerns that we heard in our public comment period last week, and I wanted to be very clear that the administration was listening during this period as we worked to develop a climate action plan that our entire city can get behind. And we did hear a lot of concerns, frankly, over issues that were not in the plan, issues that were brought up that were while valid and important, were not issues that were addressed at all in the climate action plan. Regardless, we did hear some issues that were brought up during the public comment period that added some really valuable feedback and helped us improve the plan. And these were changes that are being sent to council, although they don't necessarily change the resolution adopting the goals. And I wanted to quickly review some of those changes as well as a preamble that we are adding to the actual text of the climate action plan. So under page 6, under the looking ahead section, we briefly address privacy and the importance of collaboration and input with the community. On page 46, we added a section following some comments that we had received in written version or in writing, and also here at the podium around the need for a regional food systems analysis. And that's something that we would like to take on at some point in the future to better address our food systems and making sure that we have sustainable local sources of food for our community. And then on page 54, we do add a section and sub-bullet regarding the emphasis on equity and public health when determining some of the measurables that we will be pursuing, as well as recommendations on future strategies and action, always making sure that our One Chattanooga plan, particularly the emphasis on public health, is front and center. Additionally, we did hear a lot of concerns around individual freedom, personal liberty, and privacy. And I want to be very clear on behalf of the Kelly administration, those are concerns that are deeply important to us as well. And we believe that this climate action plan does nothing to harm personal liberty or privacy for residents, but we wanted to be explicit about that. And if the council doesn't mind, I'd like to read a preamble that we are introducing at the beginning of the climate action plan that I sent over to you. It's brief, but I think it is important. This is a preamble on protecting individual freedom, personal liberty, and privacy that will be included in the front of the climate action plan. It reads, the climate action plan shall impose no binding commitments on the city of Chattanooga. The Chattanooga climate action plan shall make no recommendation of any sort that would violate individual privacy or freedom of movement. The climate action plan shall make no recommendation that imposes any regulation on driving or transit choices of residents, even as it seeks to expand and better integrate public transit, pedestrian, and bicycle infrastructure across the city to provide more transportation options, especially to those who cannot drive by themselves, like the poor, young, and elderly. The climate action plan shall not restrict residents in any way, regardless of their preferred means of transportation, where they live, or the length of their commute. The climate action plan shall not make any recommendations that violate or undermine the city of Chattanooga's home rule status as outlined by state law and the city charter, including by any national or international non-governmental organizations. The climate action plan shall be in full compliance with the requirements and liberties provided by the United States Constitution and the Constitution and laws of the state of Tennessee. The climate action plan shall ensure community input and engagement remain the core of the plan to increase economic prosperity and opportunity for Chattanoogans in every neighborhood, regardless of their race, gender identity or expression, sexual orientation, political affiliation, income, or where they live. And then finally, the climate action plan shall be adopted with the express intent and purpose of improving the quality of life for all Chattanooga residents by investing in economic opportunity, conserving our natural resources, and attracting the jobs of the future. We included this specifically because we do believe that individual privacy and freedom of movement is critical. And we do not want the residents of the city of Chattanooga to be confused in any way that this plan does anything differently. And so by explicitly stating these are the goals of the climate action plan and these are the guardrails that we're living behind, we believe that we can address sustainability and stewardship in our community and also attract those jobs while doing it differently than many other cities in our country. We can be very specific that this is something that our entire community can rally behind. So I just wanted to be very clear about those changes which we've sent over to you. And I'm happy to answer any other questions ahead of our 6 o'clock meeting.
All right, thank you so much, Joda. Any questions, council? All right, Councilwoman Hill.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Joda, I appreciate that, that preamble and then the updates related to our food system and health disparities. I have definitely heard quite a bit from my constituents about this plan. District 2 is one that has remarkably diverse thought, I would say, where in political terms you might call us one of the more purple of the districts. And so it's certainly a privilege to get to weigh out all of that, and I'm humbled by it. A handful of things I just wanted to point out to you and to everyone here that stand out to me and to the people of District 2 as we've studied the climate action plan. Because we have such diverse thought within District 2, I've identified 3 big buckets of thought that are shared values that we work within. And one of those is strong foundation. And I think that this is a great example of something that fits within that strong foundation value that District 2 shares. So there are 4 things that I just wanted to point out to my colleagues that make this a strong document, in my opinion. The first is that stewardship of our natural resources is something that's deeply important to the people of District 2. We are directly impacted by steep slope development, by loss of tree canopy, and by the health of our rivers and streams. And so that's something that my constituents bring to me very often. And I appreciate that this plan does carefully set out some thoughtful ideas for how we will address that long term. An improved multimodal transportation infrastructure is something that comes up a lot in District 2. Just last night, I spoke with residents of Lepton City who are so very close to a grocery store, a school, a church, a pharmacy, and yet have no sidewalk infrastructure to get there safely. It's the kind of thing that just makes sense that we would have a bus shelter that people can wait for a bus without being rained on. These are smart choices. An innovative economy is something that's important to the people of District 2. And I like the fact that this is, that when we set our mind to something in Chattanooga, like for example, when we send the chamber out to do business development and recruitment, we tend to get what we fish for. And in this example, you know, we have Novonix as a recent addition that has made great strides within my previous school district of District 6 in Lookout Valley, and then here in downtown. And then finally, resilience is something that really resonates with me, that this plan takes into account. I think that as a public servant, a big part of my job is not just thinking about the 4 years that I've been elected to serve, but to think about the 10, 20, 30-year future of our city. And when we consider what a major flood event, for example, could do in the city of Chattanooga, or a fire, or some of these big storms, I think resilience not only of our infrastructure, but also of our economy is really important. And you all have heard me talk about having a strong economy versus a fragile economy. And I think that this positions us in a thought plane to be headed in the right direction. So I appreciate all the public leaders that have, and community members who have been instrumental in developing this plan over the last year or so. And I'm glad that Mayor Kelly's administration brought this to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hill. Any other questions, comments? All right, thank you. All right, under resolutions, we have, on the police, we have a resolution there, as well as public works and wastewater. Any questions, comments? All right, don't see any lights. All right, council, if you will look at your 2-week agenda, next week's proposed agenda. If you have any questions, please hit your light. Okay. I don't see any lights to the field. I did have a question about item J.
Yes, ma'am.
Under the mayor, I'm sorry, not Phil, Joda, I had a question about item J under the mayor's office. Update us on that.
Yes, so we are asking that the council essentially swap the resolution demonstrating the city of Chattanooga's intent to adopt the CPACER enabling legislation. And I'll briefly tell you a little bit about what CPACER is. It is a provision enabled by Tennessee state law that other major cities in Tennessee, including Knoxville, Memphis, and Nashville, have adopted that allow a new financing mechanism for funding energy improvements in our community. And this does this through a special assessment, a voluntary special assessment on the property that would then go on to, it would be essentially a lien on the property. And these energy efficiency improvements would be paid for through the regular tax collections, either through the city or directly to the lien holder. And the first organization within our community that's most likely to take advantage of CPACER is actually our own Tivoli. And so as they look to improve their energy efficiency within their buildings and make significant upgrades as they're going through their renovations, this is a piece of legislation that would enable that to happen. We need the enabling legislation from the council. And so we've provided a packet of the latest ordinance in your packet, and that will be on the 2-week agenda, if that is amenable to the chair.
Any opposition or objection to moving that from a resolution to an ordinance for next week? No. All right. Oh, just a second. I do have council members.
Not opposition. Yeah, it's not coming on. Is it on now?
It's on.
All right. No opposition to it at all, but I really would like an education session on it.
Yes, ma'am. I can provide that next week if that works for you.
I think that would be great, but I think it's probably necessary for all kinds of
Yes,
reasons.
I'm happy to provide a brief presentation next week.
Thank you.
And this ordinance would require a public hearing before implementation, but it can be done in 2 weeks on the final reading if you wish.
It's great.
Well, it's because it would require a public hearing that I think we should get educated
Absolutely
on.
happy to do it.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, any other questions, comments about it? All right, thank you, council. Next, purchasing questions. Any questions? We have 5 purchases, 2 renewals. We don't have any RFPs, sole source or emergency purchases. Any questions about that? Okay. Moving on to future considerations. Any questions, comments about future considerations, please hit your light. I don't see any lights, but I do have a question about item 9 under the city attorney's office. Phil, could you explain that or give more information about that particular item?
Yes, ma'am. Get to the right page here in my document.
All right.
This is simply a provision here that would be authorizing the city to join other local governments in Tennessee that are currently receiving funding from the Tennessee State Opioid Abatement Agreement. There are provisions under state law that have allowed the Attorney General to file a lawsuit against a number of companies that were selling opioid drugs here. And the inclusion at this point in time would include Walmart, Walgreens, and CVS as some of the entities that would be actually providing a settlement funding to the city, and that would be coming to the city and the county based upon those state agreements.
Okay, thank you, Phil. All right, no questions on the future considerations. All right, we don't have any departmental reports. Is there any other business that we need to handle? All right, Councilwoman Burrs.
Yes, ma'am. It came to my attention last week when there was the report, when we were approving the finance report and approving the purchases. When I asked a question of Chair Ledford, and I started doing some research, I realized, and I've talked with Joda about this already, that we had stopped receiving capital expenditure reports, the quarterly required capital expenditure reports. And also, and this is no fault of the current administration, it's that I think the message wasn't passed. I sent you all the minutes and where these decisions had been made. And I realized that, especially you, Councilwoman Hill, you'd been asking a lot of questions about when prices went up and went down for contracts. And you're absolutely correct. And I apologize for that. It just, because I was so used to us receiving them, I just assumed we were receiving them. We weren't. I was wrong. So what we should have been receiving about 3 or 4 weeks ahead of time is what contracts were up for renewal. Some of them, we weren't getting reports about, were these people doing satisfactory work to begin with? Should we be altering those contracts? They shouldn't happen just rotely, okay? And also we realized that the other reason for this was it wasn't a level playing field. If we had a good old boy system that automatically renewed contracts, we were the ones effectively renewing them because of the cost. We weren't able to ask the questions, and that's the reason the previous council had asked for all of this. It's part of my obligation to make sure they come in, and they haven't. And so I met with Joe today, and we can talk further at the next strategic planning meeting if you wish, but those will be forthcoming. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. We do have one committee today, Education and Innovation, and following that meeting, we do have an attorney-client privilege meeting we'll have in the conference room. So with that, I turn it over to Councilwoman Noel.
Thank you very much. Hello.
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 May I have approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Second. Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you read 4-7, please? 7N.
A resolution authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a subrecipient agreement with the Hamilton County Schools to launch the One Chattanooga Institute for Early Care and Learning, a new future-ready institute that will allow students to become credentialed early learning professionals for an amount not to exceed $1 million.
Is there any questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
See a few people that may have a comment out there.
Ask them to come up.
Okay, so if I can get Ms. Satterby to step up, please.
Hello. All right, how are you?
So I will go ahead and get started while we're pulling up that. So thank you, Councilman Knoll, for allowing us the opportunity to present this afternoon. And council, thank you to all of you for your time as well. As you all know, Mayor Kelly's One Chattanooga plan highlights the importance of early learning in our community. And that's because research has shown over and over that positive early childhood experiences are directly linked to better outcomes for the rest of their lives. Not only in school readiness, but better outcomes, higher earnings as adults, better outcomes for health, and then plenty more. So as we work to expand access to quality early learning in our city, we also have to address the critical need for early learning professionals in our community as well. So early learning professionals are, of course, responsible for developing kiddos in their classrooms, but these educators are also crucial for our city's healthy workforce, and they're essential to the stability of our economy. These are the people who make it possible for the rest of the workforce to go to work, all while they're building the skills for our future workforce as well. So investing in the early childhood workforce is an important step towards building a universal path to early learning, which is why Mayor Kelly has decided to partner with Hamilton County Schools to launch a new Future Ready Institute focused on training the next generation of early childhood professionals in Chattanooga. The Kelly administration, as you just heard, plans to invest $1 million into the One Chattanooga Institute of Early Care and Learning, which will be located at Tyner Academy. If you will all think back to the Relief and Recovery Allocation Plan adopted by this council last year, you may remember some funding being set aside for partnership with Hamilton County Schools. And so after a few months of planning and prep, we are excited to have several partners here finally ready to talk about it. So before I hand it over, I just want to make a couple of quick thank yous. Thank you to this council, of course, and for those of you who were able to attend the press conference last week. Mayor Wap was also able to attend the press conference last week, and we're of course grateful for his support, and then also for grateful to him for being such an advocate for quality education and workforce development. The team at Hamilton County Schools obviously works incredibly hard every day to make sure that our students are set up for success, and we're grateful for our partnership to them, and then of course grateful to Dr. Robertson for his leadership, and to Blake Freeman and Olivia Bagney, who are also here, and the rest of their team who have really helped us build out, or who have built out this Future Ready Institute. And then last but not least, I will mention our administrator for the Department of Early Learning, Caritza Jones. She leads such an important body of work so passionately and is so determined every single day. So we're of course grateful for her leadership as well. So with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Caritza and Dr. Robertson.
Thank you, Brooke, and to city council members. Appreciate the opportunity to come speak with you. It's actually my first time actually speaking to city council, so I appreciate the welcome and the commitment to Hamilton County Schools. So I want to start off by mentioning that we have just recently presented a new strategic plan. Over the past 14 months, we've been on a countywide listening session trying to determine what our next steps were. I'm pointing this out for a couple of reasons. One, we've talked a lot in this city, in this community about opportunity, and our new strategic plan, Opportunity 2030, recognizes the need for opportunity, but more importantly, it recognizes that for us to create opportunity, we have to do it by design, meaning we have to be intentional about creating opportunity for students. Our 5 commitments in this new strategic plan are listed here, and you can see one clear, what looks like maybe an omission, is the lack of something around future ready students. What we want to point out is that future ready institutes are a big part of this plan. They actually permeate through each of the 5 commitments. If you think about serving every community served or every student learns, you can see that Future Ready Institutes are part of every single one of these commitments. For City Council, just a little bit of a history lesson. Future Ready Institute started 2018, and right now the City of Chattanooga will be the 13th branded partner of Future Ready Institutes. They're in each of our learning communities and serving students across Hamilton County. These institutes really have 3 principles, and they're built on the idea that we will have engaging instruction across the institute, that it's hands-on learning, right? And that the kids are involved in an institute of their choice and something that they're interested in. It relies on partnerships like what we're talking about right now with the City of Chattanooga. We have to have partners in order to create the opportunities for students that go beyond high school. And then also we want to make sure that there is a post-secondary jump start, meaning that we want students to get off to a great start in terms of post-secondary. We've been really intentional about this piece. We want to obviously increase the number of industry certifications, but we also talk about the ability of students to stack those credentials, and that we don't create ceilings, meaning that we don't want students coming out of high school, they've got a certification, and we say that's all that they can do. We want them to be able to go on to 2- and 4-year universities, or again, to be able to stack credentials on top of that so that they can continue to earn a thriving wage for their families. Here are a number of our partners across our institutes. You see a lot of big names up there. You heard Ms. Hill earlier mention Devonics, who is one of our newer partners in Lookout Valley. But we've added recently Coca-Cola at Hickson and are excited about the potential for a partnership with the city of Chattanooga. I'm not going to go through each of these, but just for your reference in the weeks to come as you consider this, wanted you to be able to see not only the branded partners, but also the institutes that are across the county and accessible to each and every one of our students in Hamilton County. So the big question is why this institute? Why would we need to partner with the city of Chattanooga? And why is it important for us to add this pathway? First of all, what we know, and you're going to hear Hamilton County Schools press on this community in the coming years, is that we can't do this alone. We know that the formative years of really conception through 5 are extremely important for students, and we have to open up more access to high quality pre-K sites, right? And to do that, we have to have workers, right? And we have to make sure that we have the staff available to put quality teachers in front of students in these pre-K sites. We also know that that's going to take a path. That those workers don't just come out of the air, and you'll hear from Ms. Jones later that will talk about the partners that are going to participate in this and have already agreed to hire workers coming out of this institute. What we know is that for literacy to improve, right, for us to improve as a school system, to improve as a community, we've got to start this early. We've got to start access to early learning opportunities, again, earlier than age 5. To do that, we've got to open up more seats and we've got to have more workers. So I'm going to ask Ms. Jones if she would to come up and talk about the One Chattanooga goals, and then we can answer some questions about what the institute will look like.
So when Mayor Kelly and the council adopted his One Chattanooga plan, the very first goal of their strategic plan is early learning. Of course, is to build a universal path to early learning. And with this body of work and the partnership with Hamilton County Schools, we will be addressing 2 of the 4 priorities under that goal. One being train the next generation of excellent early learning professionals, and also to continue our partnership with Hamilton County Schools to provide high quality learning opportunities and services for family. We often hear that the city is not in the education business because we are not the LEA for schools any longer, but it doesn't mean that our work has to stop just because Hamilton County is leading that charge, but of course, to continue to partner and support that body of work. The One Chattanooga goal alignment is that what we've asked, or what we're asking of the council support on, is Mayor Kelly's desire to invest $1 million ARP funding dollars to support the creation of a model of an early learning system. This is a guaranteed institute investment for 5 years, beginning in August of 2023. And partnerships, we have, this directly answers to the community's need to recognize through the work of the Early Matters and the Bright Start Steering Committee, as well as Chattanooga 2.0 and the Children's Cabinet, the importance of ensuring that our children have the foundation they need when they're ready to enter into secondary, elementary and secondary education. So let's talk about what that looks like. With the plan of action, with the investment, $250,000 has been set in motion for the creation of the One Chattanooga Institute of Early Care and Learning at Tyner Academy. It's designed for students interested in making a path to universal early learning for every child ages 0 to 5 by completing the institute programming and graduating with their CDA, which is a Child Development Associate, the first level of certification as you enter into education, and especially with early learning. Partner funds will also be allocated to developing and sustaining the institute personnel, and any early post-secondary tuition and fees. That would include the certification for them to actually obtain the CDA. I want to talk a little bit about the why for Tyner. So Tyner currently has a Future Ready Institute, which is University of Tennessee at Chattanooga's Institute for Teaching and Learning, which of course supports our students with learning the fundamentals and the basics for wanting to go K through 12 education. Adding this an additional component to that Teaching and Learning Institute will allow our students to have exposure. Any Hamilton County student to have exposure to the realm of education, be it from early settings to elementary to secondary. And what we know is, and oftentimes when you look at our teacher retention and recruitment situation, it used to be that everybody wanted to go into education, and you had so many people wanting to be teachers. But as the society has changed and things are going on, there's not a desire to necessarily do that anymore. But we all know that everyone has a love for a child, and especially our littles, right? And so we often see children graduate from Hamilton County, and then as they go into the workforce, they're working in the centers that we support through the Office of Early Learning, through the Department of Early Learning. And then seeing those students, or now adults, residents of Chattanooga working, my team and I often sat back and talked and said, well, what if they had that credential? What if they had that CDA? What would that look like for a livable wage for them? What would that look like in piquing their interest to not only, let me do this while I'm going to obtain another degree, or let me do this as I continue on the trajectory for education. So this is a very exciting opportunity for our students, because it can drive a passion in them for early learning that may later on support something else. So investing in our community, this is not just an investment for Future Ready Institute. What this is an investment for our local infrastructure. The $1 million investment from the city of Chattanooga, of course, would allow our students here in Hamilton County Schools to participate, if they elect to, for Future Ready Institute at the One Chattanooga Institute. But also it will provide them with on-site work-based learning opportunities, in which we've had several local providers to already come aboard to say, I'm sure I want in. And then ever since the press conference, there have been calls and emails coming through that the local providers that provide early learning care want to be a part of this and want to provide that high quality work-based learning experience. We want to thank the Champion Christian Learning Academy, Purpose Point Learning Academy, Chattanooga Head Start and Early Head Start, as well as 21st Century Child Development Center and Numa Christian Academy, for being those initial cohort of providers that are willing to say, yes, we want the students to come in. We want to show them what high quality early learning looks like. We want to show them how exciting it is to work with our littles. And we want to offer them an opportunity to work for us upon completion of this program. It also, of course, adds access to early learning childhood industry certifications to make a livable wage in child care. That CDA is crucial.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have that CDA to make a livable wage. You can work in childcare, but to make a livable wage and to aspire to do other things, that certification is key. And so being able to provide the funding for our students to walk away with not only a Hamilton County School diploma, but also with a certification to go into a job on day one, ready to make a livable wage, is very important. Of course, I talked about the job placement assistance that we know that we have and that we will continue to grow with the support of our local providers. And it's a solidified pipeline to local childhood industry care, which is very, very important, because I keep saying this, people talk about education and just education, but this is infrastructure, because if parents have a place that they feel is safe and is credentialed and skilled to educate their children, they can go to work. And then as we educate our children and ensure that they have what they need, they'll come out workforce ready. And so it's just a cycle of competitive support to ensure that our infrastructure is sustainable. Tyner Academy currently has an enrollment of 549 students, and it has wall-to-wall Future Ready Institute. I'm gonna let Dr. Robinson talk about this, but it has 4 Future Ready.
I wanted to mention, I saw Dr. Irvin, Tiffany Irvin. Dr. Irvin, if you raise your hand or stand up or something, the amazing principal at Tyner Academy, and I think they had a little celebration yesterday, right? Handed out some rings. Yeah. So Tyner is a wall-to-wall institute, and you'll see EPB Institute of Health Science and UTC. What we know is that we're building a new Tyner that has more seats than right now what we have students. That's intentional, right? And that we want to recruit and we want to get as many students into Tyner. And so this institute is, for us, a recruitment tool as well, for us to be able to get new students. But I want to point out, again, there is a selfish part on Hamilton County Schools that we want to give kids opportunity. But I think Ms. Jones said it well, is that this also has an economic development impact, and that it allows more parents, to go to work and enter the workforce. Here's again, Tyner Academy. Just wanted you to be able to see this, and a quote from Dr. Irvin. But This is a rendering of the new Tyner Middle High School that hopefully will have students, hopefully August of 25 in that building. Just broke ground on it about a month ago. And so want to leave you just with possible co-awarding. We always put this up here at the end of Future Ready Institute because there is a oftentimes misconception that Future Ready Institutes don't lead to possibility of going to a 4-year college. That's not true. You have to take the same core classes, Algebra 1, English, science, that every other student, but you have very intentional set of career and technical education classes that would again lead to a certification for students in this institute. Before I turn it over for questions, just want to point out Blake Freeman and Olivia Bagby. They've both been instrumental from day one in Future Ready Institutes to make this a possibility. And thank you to the City Council for the consideration and the mayor on his fulfillment of what really was a campaign promise to support public education in Chattanooga. Any questions?
I got one. Okay. It's for Caritza.
Yes, ma'am.
So, you ready? Okay. Is my mic on?
It is.
All right. So Caritza, you know that Tyner's a favorite of mine, and this is really a neat thing. And Dr. Irwin, I'm still waiting to come over there and to some of these events. So thank you. The CDA, I'm really excited about. Is it a portal to going to college immediately?
The CDA.
Uh-huh.
So you can have a CDA and then you can matriculate on into you can still take a 4-year, take a 4-year path. You can go to Chattanooga State or another.
Will it give me a leg up? Let's say I have my CDA and I'm smitten. I want to go and get my degree in education. Will it help me move on either at Chattanooga State or at UTC, even to the point that I could do a work study sort of thing?
So I know it'll help you leading towards your certification, your technical certificate at Chattanooga
Right,
State.
right.
And then of course you still have to take that 2-year certificate and matriculate on to a 4-year university. So yeah, it does help you toward that 2-year goal. But then you have to still, if you aspire to have a bachelor's degree, of course you have to still.
Right. So I'm just thinking that whereas I see at the Future Ready Institutes, we work with a lot of corporations, and I can't say enough good things about that. This particular one has me excited because it could lead you into another path, which is that of the teachers we so badly need. And I just was thinking that if I entered this institute, instead of leading me to mnemonics, will it lead me to?
The desire would be to lead you into a career path for teaching. The desire would be to ignite that fire and say, hey, I want to teach maybe just our littles, or I want to take this educational experience, use it to build upon while I'm obtaining a bachelor's degree in elementary education or secondary education, middle school concentration or high school concentration, exceptional ed, whatever. The desire is to ignite that spark that a lot of our kids have already for young children and just don't see how it's applicable to them.
So this CDA on my resume would really look good if I'm applying to college. That's what I'm, yeah. Okay, thanks.
Councilwoman Hill.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I just wanted to share that I'm very pleased at the ingenuity that the Department of Early Learning has displayed in making this partnership a reality. When I was campaigning to earn this seat, something that I heard time and again from parents in my district was, we need more access to childcare and to early childhood education. It is not unusual in the city of Chattanooga for families to put babies on waiting lists when they are 12 weeks in utero. And it is also not unusual for families to wait until that child is a year old or older to find a suitable program. And I believe we lost 200 seats potentially of early childhood education during COVID. And in serving, so I came into this role just really committed to figuring out, like, how do we add more seats? And then as part of the Early Matters Coalition, discovered just how difficult building this ecosystem is. And so to have this seed program where we can start to grow some new members of this industry and future entrepreneurs within this industry is really important for Chattanooga's economic development. So thank you very much, Carissa, for doing this.
Thank you.
Councilman Hester.
I also wanted to thank you, Carissa, the school board, to the principal, and Mayor Kelly and the team for being on this cutting edge, being proactive. We find that there's a lot of blacks that are not going into education, and it's a way to spark plug them back into going into education. So hats off to you guys for doing this. Thank you.
Is there any more questions? Okay, so I would just like to say thank you to the group as a whole. Education Innovation, you all have made me proud today, so I really appreciate it. And I would say, in the famous words of our Madam Chairwoman, Dotley, I am excited about the Future Ready Institute. And in my famous word, it is going to be fabulous. So thank you.
Councilwoman Noel, if I could just take up the point of privilege to thank my direct leadership, which is Brooke Satterfield and Joda, for their support during this process. Of course, to Dr. Robertson, Olivia Blake and their team, Dr. Irvin for her willingness to accept the Future Ready Institute into her building, and all of the staff in the Department of Early Learning for being of support as we work toward this pilot. I just wanted to say thank you to them as well. And thank you all for the consideration.
Thank you. Is there any more questions?
I want to put this plug, and I know that Councilwoman Burrs always say that Tyner's seated in her district, but most of the students are in my district. But thanks.
Okay, is that it? Anyone else? Okay, so we will adjourn